Hey, one of the most frustrating things in marriage is when you try to show your spouse that you love them, but they don't get it. And it's so frustrating. It just breaks your heart because you're doing all you can, and yet it seems like they don't accept it. They don't appreciate the love that you're pouring out to them. So Gary Chapman's wrote a great book about that. And so today we're going to talk about that, about how to get through and how to show your spouse that you love them in a way that's meaningful to them. Hey, I'm Mitch.
And I'm Kim at Keeping the Vows, where we're helping people discover and maintain a Christ-like marriage. Mitch and I do premarital counseling together, and we have a suggested reading list for people, and the 5 love languages is always on it because we think everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah.
As Mitch said, you want your spouse to understand the love that you actually have for them. So if you can speak their love language, that's going to help in this process a lot. All of us want to have a great marriage, and that's possible, but it's not just going to happen on its own. You need to have a plan to get there, and so we would suggest reading this book, or you can also go online and there's a free test at 5lovelanguages.com that will help the two of you discover your love languages. So Chapman lists 5 main love languages, and those are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, physical touch, and quality time.
Yeah, and you might be saying, well, I've already heard about the 5 love languages, but we'd encourage you to continue to watch anyway and listen to what we have to say, because I think there's some good points that we bring out, some good practical application. One time there was a counseling session, and the husband and wife came in, and I sensed that this might help them, and so I told them about it. And I asked if they'd ever heard of the book, and the wife said, yeah, she'd read it. She thought it was good. And the husband said, oh, I think that's stupid. He didn't want to hear anything I had to say. I mean, usually one person comes in for counseling when one wants to know what you want to, the way out, and the other one oftentimes doesn't. He said, I think that's stupid. And I said, really? So I tried to elaborate even more, and he said, oh, that's stupid. And so finally, I look, and I don't do this very often, okay, so don't think I'm like this all the time. But finally, I looked at him and I said, you're here. I said, there's marriage problems here. Which side of the desk are you on? And it made him realize that, hey, I was the counselor. I was really there trying to help them. And so it made him give in then and want to maybe at least try to do this. As a kid, I like watching Westerns, still enjoy watching a good Western. And in the end, the cowboy rides off alone in the sunset, and he doesn't need anyone. And I've come to realize that that's pretty much not going to happen in life, that we all need someone, and all of us, we have a love tank, and we need to keep that love tank filled. The problem is we're using from the love tank all the time. So how do we keep that love tank filled? Well, one of the ways that we do it is that if people can do the thing that helps most to fill that tank, that's going to be to our advantage. And because we cherish our spouse, we want to keep their love tank full. But the problem is we can be doing something, for instance, just say that Kim's gifts, his score is 0. Gifts don't really ring her bell. It's not really a thing. I could be buying gifts right and left for her and think, gee, she doesn't act like I love her. She's not accepting my love. What's wrong with that? Well, it's because I'm speaking the wrong language. It's like if she spoke French and I spoke German, I could tell her I love her all day long, but she wouldn't understand me. So we need to get into that niche that's them. And the other thing too is sometimes it's not our niche. So Kim and I happen to be pretty much alike in our love language gifts scores, but a lot of people aren't. So for instance, one time a lady came to me and she said, my husband will just never touch me. My love language is touch. She said, he'll never touch me. All of a sudden he'll just come home and then he'll want sex. But he doesn't touch me. And if he'd touch me and caress me and hold me, that's my love language. And I thought, well, this is easy, because I knew the guy and he was always sending me emails on how to be a strong Christian and everything. And so I got with him and I chatted with him and he goes, no, I'm not going to do it. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So in other words, since loving, touching, and cuddling and holding wasn't his language, he was refusing to do that for her. So we need to make sure that we bridge that gap and that we go to wherever it is our partner's love language is. Also, guys, some guys think that maybe their wife is cold or frigid, in the sex department. Well, a lot of that's because maybe you're not filling her love tank. If a woman feels loved and cherished and desired and needed forever, she has that security, it's probably going to change your heart some too. The other thing that I've learned too after 37 years of marriage is when I fill Kim's love tank, she responds. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a vending machine. I don't put money into the vending machine to get something back out. But it means that when I fill her love tank, I can just see her she just glows. And I love to have her glow. And after 37 years of marriage, I enjoy seeing her happy more than I enjoy seeing me happy. And, things can go, a rock can roll down a hill. And we always say it can roll down the bad side of the mountain or the good side of the mountain. And when we do things bad, and we criticize our spouse and we do the wrong thing, things can get worse and worse and worse, and it can roll down and it can get, like a snowball, get bigger, bigger, bigger. But it can also go down the good side of the mountain too. So when I talk to Kim and I feel her need, her love language, then it starts going down the good side of the mountain, and I see it get bigger and bigger and more momentum and more momentum and more momentum. And that's what it does to our relationship. It builds our relationship. And so I partially build our relationship by keeping Kim's love tank full and running over. We're always using out of the love tank. Things are going to happen, kids, work, just troubles of the day, just whatever. Health, things are going to happen, right? They're going to take down our love tank. It's like a cup of coffee. We're always drinking out of it, and we have to have it refilled sometimes. The love tank is no different. If we don't pay attention to it, we're not going to meet the needs of our spouse. Kim did something a while back that was really interesting. Kim and I, neither one have gifts. Gifts are zero for both of us. So if we're going to spend money on each other for gifts, it could be a waste, right? Well, I lost 70 pounds a few years ago, and I was doing woodworking, and I was wearing the old shirts that I would wear, that were good, my good shirts, but now they were old and they had holes, t-shirts or something like that. Whatever I had, I just wore a surplus of whatever like that, whatever was left over. And Kim one day went out and she found some t-shirts that were mediums, which is my new size, from extra large to medium. And she found some really nice ones, and they were blue stripes and orange and different colors and green and things like that. And she bought me about a 5-pack of t-shirts, and it was to do woodworking in. So now I had brand new t-shirts to do woodworking in. And it was interesting because while gifts is not my love language, every single time I put on one of those shirts, I am reminded that there was a time when Kim and I were apart from each other one day, but while we were apart, she thought of me. Well, for a man, we think that we need to be loved or we need to be needed, right? So that feeds right into that. She bought me a gift, but the way I look at it was, when we were apart one day, my precious wife thought about me and wanted to meet my need while we were apart. And every time I put the shirt on, I'm reminded of that. That's just the power of knowing the other person's love language and what it can do for you.
So the first love language we want to talk about is words of affirmation. And we found typically that men will score very high on this. Men need to know that they're needed. And Mitch has told me that even though us women tend to think of men as the strong one, that they actually have a very fragile male ego. And I do tend to look at him as the strong one, so sometimes I forget that myself, but then I'll see the softer side of him, and it reminds me. But anyhow, so women, there are 2 things you can do to demasculate your man, and that would be to tell people that he's not a good lover, or to tell people in public that he doesn't make enough money. And to demasculate a man means to deprive him of his identity. He needs to be my big brawny man. Mm-hmm. He needs to know that he's wanted and needed. So, I make sure to compliment him when he mows the lawn or blows the snow or anything like that he does.
In the movie RV, Robin Williams tells his wife, "You want to go camping with your big brawny man?" So we'll be at home and I'll say, "Want to go for a walk with your big brawny man?" Because now I lost weight, so now I'm like a medium brawny man, but that's okay. Right? But men do have a fragile ego, and she's exactly right in what she said. Okay, we have a thing that we do called buzzwords. We have a whole YouTube video, or go to our blog at keepingthevows.com, and we have one called Caveman. And a man has a fragile ego, and so a man has to have his ego built up all the time. And a woman can make a man as much or little of a man as she wants to with her tongue. She can tear a man down to nothing, or she can build him up into the man that she wants by what she says. Absolutely true. So we have this thing, we do buzzwords, and a buzzword is where we say this little short thing, but it means this great big long thing. So we have a word that's called caveman. That's the buzzword. And what it means is, hey, I'm a man, I have a fragile ego, and I need to have my ego stroked. Come right now and tell me how great I am, because I need that. Okay? It's pretty primitive, isn't it? That's why I call it caveman. All right. So I do woodworking. I build rocking chairs. I built these rocking chairs that we're in right now.
Beautiful.
And it's my hobby. See, she just did.
They're
Beautiful. See what she did? And so I will be working on something, and I'll say, "Hey, babe," I'll open the door and come in the house, and I'll say, "Hey, babe, you busy?" And usually she knows what that means, and she'll say, "No, what do you need?" And I'll say, "Caveman." Well, once again, we know what that means, right? So she'll come out to the shop, and she'll look at it, and she'll go, "Oh, honey, this is so pretty. How did you get this so smooth? I like how you saved the prettiest grain for the front of the chair. And, I just can't believe how far you've come in your woodworking." And she just goes on and on. Well, you know what? I need that because I'm a man and my ego is fragile. And that's all there is to it. We have really good friends, and we told them that every man needs to know he's a good lover. And we'd say the woman needs to tell the man he's a good lover. And we told this to this couple, and they're good friends of ours, and young people that we were mentoring. And I said to them, I said, he needs to know that he's a good lover. And I said, you don't even care if she's lying, do you? And he goes, no. Just like real quick. It was so funny. It was just hilarious. And we both all of us just died laughing because he was so funny. He goes, well, he didn't care if she's lying. He just needs to think he's a good lover because it's so important because a man has a fragile ego. So these are things that you need to do in love language to reach out to the other person and stroke their ego, if you will, and build them up. If Kim tells me I can do something, I've probably been able to do things that I didn't even know I could do because she told me I could. Once I was getting my airplane license and I thought about giving up, and I called home from the airport and I told Kim, I said, I'm going to be home late. Go ahead and go to Wednesday night church without me. And I thought about giving up, And I got home and there was a letter. And it was all about, honey, I know that you're going to be a good pilot. I know this, I know this, I know this. I know you're going to be able to do it and all this. And it just breathed life into me. And I went back and got my pilot's license and really enjoyed flying. But I might not have done it if she hadn't stroked my ego and she hadn't fulfilled the caveman part of me and let me know that she thought I could do it. There's country songs that said, she thinks I could hang the moon. And when a woman thinks that a man can do something, I mean, I've probably been able to do things that I wasn't able to do because she believed in me. And that's so, so, so important. We want to tell you about that.
And, men, the words you say are important too, because I know Mitch needs me to build him up with my words, but I think it's human nature that we kind of live up to what others expect of us.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're putting your wife down, then she's not going to have much reason to live up to anything. But like Mitch is saying nice, good things about me all the time, and it just makes me want to be better.
Yeah.
So the words for everyone is so important.
And guys, use your head a little bit. If you think your wife doesn't want sex as much as you, well, she probably doesn't. The good news, there comes a time about 40 when it turns around, it'll flip your head around. It's really great. But anyway, she probably doesn't. But a lot of it could be because of how you treat her too. A woman's body is very precious to her, and she doesn't want to just give it away for just no reason. It's been said that a woman needs a reason to have sex, a man needs a place, and barely a place is what I say, okay? And so a woman, her body is very precious to her. And for her to yield her body to her man, she has to feel loved. She has to feel respected. She has to feel secure. She has to feel like that love's going to be there forever. Okay, for the most part, that's true. So if your wife is cold, think, am I doing those things? Does she feel that way? There's no doubt in Kim's mind that I'm going to love her forever. I told her I love her so much, if she ever leaves me, I'm just going with her. That's all there is to it, okay? So she knows that I'm there forever, and she knows that I will never leave her because it's a decision that I've made. And what does it make her do? It makes her respond. She showers me with love in ways that just fill my love tank. And I come back to her and fill her love tank, and she fills mine. And it goes back and forth. And I think this is a key part of a marriage.
The first love language we talked about is words of affirmation. The second one is acts of service. And that, I don't know if women in general, but that's definitely a high one for me. And so, men, I don't know if you realize it or not, but the sexiest thing you can do might be to hold a vacuum cleaner in your hand.
Turn it on and push it around too.
Yeah. Okay.
I need to clarify that for some of the guys. We're cavemen. Go ahead.
So Mitch has never complained about my house cleaning at all, but he knows that my back hurts when I sweep, so he sweeps the house most of the time. And also he knows the thing I hate most about house cleaning is cleaning the top of the stove. And so I love it when I come home and there's a Post-it note on the top of the stove and he's cleaned it. It's all shiny and sparkly. So, yeah. Acts of service is your spouse's love language. Just think of things you can do to...
I'll tell them a story. Everything reminds me of a story, okay? So we have these really good friends, and they're the same people that he said, I don't care if she's lying. Okay, I just told you a little bit ago. But her love language is acts of service. So it's a Saturday morning. They're married. They don't have any kids yet. She's getting ready to go to the grocery store. And it's calling for rain. So she goes to her husband, who happens to be playing a video game on the sofa, and says, hey, babe, I'm going to the grocery store. It's calling for rain. the eave spout is plugged on the garage eave spout. Would you unplug that? Because when I come home, if it's raining, I have to walk through the, the water falling down with the groceries. He said, sure. We all know what happened, right? So she goes to the grocery store. She comes home. It's pouring down rain. She drives in and water's running over the spout because he never thought about it. He didn't do it, right? So she gets the groceries, walks through the water that's coming over the eave spout, walks into the house. He's sitting there watching a video game. And she says, you don't
love me.
And guys go, when we're talking to people, they go, what does that mean? It's just the eave spout. No, acts of service is her love language. And because he didn't act and serve her, when she asked, she felt as though he did not love her. And that's how to understand this. That's how to understand this. It meant so much to her that was done, and it didn't register in him that it would mean that much to her. That's interesting how what we do and don't see with our with our brains, what we do understand and what we don't.
That's why it's a good idea to read this book, because so much of this just passes right over our head. But when you read it and it's put right in front of you, then a lot of it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can go to keepingthevows.com. We'll have it there in our resources. And if you click on it, it won't cost you any more if you buy it. But we'll get a percent of it, and it'll help us in our ministry. So thank you.
Okay. So the third love language is receiving gifts. And as Mitch has told you, we both scored 0 in that. And he used my example here with the T-shirts and told you that.
Leave it to me. I have ADHD in case you haven't noticed.
Let's see. Is
Except for
there anything
giving,
else here?
The next one is physical touch. The next love language is physical touch. And most generally, guys score higher than women. But it's not really quite what you think. I think one of the things is that the reason that women don't score as high in physical touch is because a woman isn't always ready to be sexually aroused. It's where a guy would be more apt to be. So a woman might not want physical touch because she might not know what that means. We have some good friends. They've been married like 35 years, and she'd be doing something at the sink. He'd come up from behind and hug her, and in her mind she's going, because she doesn't know what that means. Does it mean he just wants to hold her? Does it mean hello? Does it mean he wants to have sex? What does it mean? They have no idea. They've been married 30-some years, and they haven't worked out that signal. Well, physical touch is important, but it is important for both people. And one of the things that guys don't understand is they don't think cuddling is important, but cuddling can actually increase a woman's testosterone level, which can actually arouse a woman. So cuddling is actually a good thing. Now, it doesn't mean that if your wife's at the sink, every time you come up and put your arms around her, it's a prelude. Every time you touch your wife, it shouldn't be a prelude for sex. That's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheesy. So it means that you reach out and you touch her to let her know that you care about her. And it changes her because as you touch her, she feels more adored, more loved, more accepted, more beautiful. It's important that a woman feels that she's beautiful. Kim and I have this thing where I'll say, I need a hug, or she'll say, I need a hug. Well, hug is a few seconds. But if we need more than that, we say, I need a held. And a held is like a hug, except it lasts a lot longer. Okay? And so we communicate these things because there's times like it's maybe, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'll say, we haven't hugged or kissed today. This is a crime. And how does it make you feel when I say that?
Makes me feel loved.
Yeah. So use that. Use touching in a way that and talk about it so that you understand. There's times we've been married 37 years, and there's times both of us we'll just hold each other close and cuddle, and we'll feel like the room still spins sometimes because we've just worked on it and we know what it means to each other. And I want to fill her love tank so much, and she wants to fill mine so much. And both of us, I think, are happier when we fill the other person's tank than when we get our own filled. I know I'm that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And actually, both of us score high on physical touch, which we've said our love languages have probably changed over time. It would have been interesting if we would have taken it when we first got married. I don't know that physical touch would have been high on my list, because Mitch has said when he first got married, he thought that meant having sex every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so
talk about caveman.
When you think physical touch only means sex, then you're probably not going to, a woman probably won't score very high on it. But when you realize that you're cherished for more than just sex, then physical touch went up.
I can say I need a held, and we hold each other for a couple minutes and we walk away, and I don't anticipate sex out of it. And she knows that. But it means just holding her is important, and that's good.
So the last love language we want to talk to you about is quality time. People can have different ideas about what quality time means, but I think quality right there says a lot.
So you're saying that's a qualifying word?
Yeah, that should help explain it.
All right.
So when you have quality time together, you're spending time together and you're appreciating one another. And that can look different ways. I mean, we might be actively out on a date together, or we might be doing a project in the yard together. Last summer we did some re-landscaping, and even though we're working together, we're communicating, we're spending time talking and sharing our hearts with one another even while we're working. We've said before, we like to get groceries together or run errands together because we continue to talk, and that makes me think, women, if you have something you want to talk to your husband about, if you say we need to talk, then his defenses are going to go up like, oh my gosh.
Or worse yet, if you say, sit down, we need to talk about something, a man inside goes, ah!
Yes.
It's the worst thing. Just don't do that. Instead.
So my husband tells me.
Yeah. He's usually, pretty accurate on this, but go ahead.
If you want to talk to a man, the best way to do it is when you're doing a task together. So maybe we're out in the wood shop, or I don't know, with our kids. He said he'd be changing the oil with Ben on the motorcycle, riding together on the motorcycle, just doing something together, going for a walk. Just make sure you're doing something. Don't just sit him down and say, hey, we've got to talk.
Yeah, that's important for a guy. That's good. Did we do good?
Yes.
Are we done?
I think so.
Okay. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something. We know that we can learn from you. Hopefully you can learn something from us. So write a comment or put a question there. We'll try to answer your questions. It's one of the ways that we stay relevant. Make sure you check out our blog at keepingthevows.com. If you would like or subscribe to this, that would be great. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Okay, come over this. I'll go your way a little bit.
You always come my way.
I always like to come your way. Okay. Is that a...
I'm not sure how we got on sex, but anyhow.
Well, it's just my tendency. There's an outtake.
Let's see.
Are you saying I got off script? Start talking about sex. Is that what you're saying?
How often do men think of sex?
Is it every 20 seconds? They say men think of sex. It could be true.
Okay.
How often do women think about sex?
I don't know. I'm not going to answer that question.
Because she knows her husband will put it in the outtakes. That's why.
Let's see. You probably covered all your stuff?
I know. I didn't know it was there.
Even though it was on the next page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a minute. Yep.
Okay. And that was actually all on the first one. Okay.
Huh. When I edit, I watch down at the bottom, and if there's no sound, I know we're not doing anything. When the sound picks up again, I can tell. Then
That's so smart.
She's doing it again. She's building my ego.
What was that?
It's still there.
Okay.
Part 2.
So the first love language we talked about was words of affirmation.
First laugh language?
Is that what I said?
I love you so much. I'm always going to be in love with you.
Mm-hmm. The first love language we talked about.
I got scratching my nose if I don't put that in. Okay, go ahead.
Just a minute.
You're so cute.
Okay. Okay.
Take 586. Just teasing.
Quality can mean... Oh, dear.